Welcome to the Making Money in the Music Business podcast, where we share insightful views on a variety of topics in the music industry that can help you make more money from your music business. And now, here are your hosts, Dr. William E. Smith and Kenya McGuire-Johnson. All right, Kenya, we're back on.
We're back on, Will.
Podcast
and we're
number
at
6.
podcast number 6. Whoa.
Podcast number 6.
Oh my gosh, that means we are 6 weeks into, or a little bit more because we had a holiday kind of in there. But yeah, so we're moving along. We're the little engine that could. We're moving. That's great.
We're doing the KIM, keeping it moving.
Keeping it moving. Yeah. Yeah. So what's on tap today? What are we going to talk about?
Well, this one is actually going to be pretty interesting, and it's something actually that I'm looking for some more information on.
Okay.
But it's on building your team.
Building your team. Great topic.
Yep. Great topic.
Yeah.
So, but the first question I would have for you is, who's the most important person to have on your team?
Well, I will say this, obviously our podcast is, for musicians and those who are involved in the music industry. So I think how that looks in the music world, it kind of depends on what it is your project is and what, so if we're talking about you as an artist and you're just trying to, get your brand and all of that together, I would probably say either some level of an assistant, and I'm going to go to assistant because assistant can be very broad.
Right.
The other language I try to use is consultant, meaning you have somebody who doesn't necessarily just belong to you, but they consult and they provide advice. And that consultant can come from a variety of backgrounds. And then for my development, I would say that between my publicist and the consultants that I've had, those have been my most primary people. And I say publicists may be one of the stronger ones only because they do so many things that push you to have to get a lot of other aspects of what you need to do as an artist to get it all together. But I wouldn't necessarily say, because there's the timing, publicists, I think if you're just starting, you shouldn't be running to a publicist first. But I think if you're more developed, you've released some things and you're trying to go to the next level, the publicist is going to become a very important part of your team. If you're just starting. Okay.
Yeah. You're actually hitting it. I was actually going to ask you what would be the first person that you wanted to have on your team.
Right. When you're very first starting or
exactly.
when. Yeah.
Yeah. When you're first starting out.
Well, oh boy. For me, I'm going to speak from my experience. It was my producer. Yeah, it was my producer. And the reason why, was because, again, the producer now, when you're in that beginning part of your career, your product is going to become such a big part of, or it's the foundation. And so if that product isn't right, then you're kind of thrown off there. So the producer for me was kind of who not only got my music solid, but because they had produced other music and had released music, they knew also the process of how we were going to need to get it going. And so then, but I've had unique producers who weren't just in a lab all day. Like they had done a lot of business as well. But I will say this, after all this that I've said, I'm going to say this, and I don't know how people will respond, but I think maybe the most critical person as you're beginning is going to be a mentor or a coach. That because you're not going to know what you're doing. This is the thing.
Right.
You don't know what you're doing.
Key. I think your thing about a consultant, that sort of fits in that box as well, the mentor / consultant. Even if you have to pay a mentor, it would be well worth the money if you've never done this before.
Absolutely. I mean, I may sound a little biased because I'm a coach for artists, and I think a coach is going to be another really important aspect. And team meaning to just help you figure this out. But in operational sense, that's a different kind of, there's kind of different parts of teams, I don't think though that you should be saying, okay, I'm going to start now. I got to get this team right now. Because a lot of this happens organically, and it's not really until you have things really moving where you can't really handle yourself that now it's like, okay, I got to get a team going. I don't believe that if, you haven't even written a song yet that, I got to go find a team. No, you're not really ready for a team yet. You're going to need a team ultimately. By the time it's time for you to actually get the music into the world and, and out and moving, then yes, a team will reveal itself. It will reveal itself. But I think if you haven't recorded before, or you're about to start recording, maybe you have found a producer, but the producer isn't as invested in you per se as an artist. They're just kind of, not that they're a bad producer, but they're more so focused on just making sure that they're there for the production of your song. And you're still feeling like, well, I don't really know what I'm doing. Yes, a mentor or finding somebody, a coach, a mentor, or a consultant who has a very good sense of beginning artistry for independent artists. And that can come in a lot of ways. That person may have so many different backgrounds, but they need to serve you as a consultant or a mentor or a coach so they can help at least give you an idea of what is it that I'm really getting into.
And I think and as you talk about it, I think in general, there are a lot of things that you would benefit from. In fact, you'll be able to shave off many years of your career if you get the right guidance. And it's so important. And actually, I mean, save way more money than you would ever pay for a mentor.
Absolutely.
It's just a invaluable thing to have in your life is somebody who can guide you and show you the pitfalls and show you what to avoid.
And I think it's important people to understand, then that means, you're not going to be able to just go on Facebook and say, can somebody help me? I mean, maybe you could do that, but the idea is that you really, I believe this, and this is maybe a little more on the spiritual space, but I believe when you are really doing something that is purposeful and truthful and authentic, and you're being very committed to that, then, the universe gives you everything you need. So the person is there already. Now, you may not know to look to your left or your right quite yet, but the person is there. So it's not going to be you having to go real far. It's right in your backyard. It's right near. So you have to I tell people to sit down and maybe write a list of two kind of lists. One list of those people that you know right offhand that have had some type of experience with music, something in entertainment, something in the arts in that area that has kind of established. See if you can write some names down. And then also sit down and write a list of the things it is that you feel like you need to be doing or that you need right now. And if you're like, I don't know what I need, then write that down so that you're clear as to say, as you can look at your list of your people and you look at your list of the things that you're thinking you need, it can hopefully help you kind of pinpoint, all right, you know what? I think I'm going to reach out to Bill because Bill has this and that. And I've been kind of thinking ABC. He may be able to give me at least some suggestions. And then, once you reach out to Bill's probably going to ask you a whole bunch of questions that you weren't even thinking about. And that's how it starts to become a little bit more organic.
Yeah. And I think the organic part is key, is just to allow yourself to flow with the process. There are also points when you just gotta look up online and look for somebody. I mean, there's, go on and hire somebody through one of these virtual sites like Fiverr or Upwork or one of these places when you just have to get things done. So But even that in itself, because I totally subscribe to the, you're completely guided on everything that you do. And it's just a matter of you just surrendering to it and just saying, okay, well, no one's in my face right now that can do that. So let me just go to this website and hire somebody to do X.
And I'm going to, better yet, if you're listening to this podcast right now, I mean, this is the whole reason why I started creating Crimson, the coaching service I have, because I do think that people may have a list or, may have a couple names, but aren't feeling either just not feeling confident or comfortable or certain about maybe reaching out to people that are in their backyards or whatever. And this is why I started creating Crimson, is so that I could be that kind of person for new artists. I could be that mentor, that coach, or I could at least help to have them get a better idea of what it is that they're even trying to do. So honestly, that's my main purpose for creating Crimson, is to be that person to help you kind of figure it out. And then once I can hear more of your story and what it is you're trying to do, then that lets me know where you're at and, in fact, what level of a team you need to start to think about. There's some artists that come to me and I'll be like, oh yeah, you're ready. You definitely need to be, hooking up with a photographer, and you need, cause you need a video shoot, or you need a photo, not a video shoot, but a photography shoot, photo shoot. Mm-hmm. And so because you've done your project and stuff, but you have so we're going to create a team around that aspect, So it may be that you have maybe an assistant, but you don't have the team for the photo shoot, so because that's a whole nother kind of team that has to take place. Mm-hmm. But that's what, that's why I created it. I think there are life coaches out there as well. I'm a creativity coach, which is a little bit more unique. But they are out there, believe it or not. There are multiple coaches out there. So those, if you don't have anybody that you can really, when you write that, but first write that list. Mm-hmm. Or if you automatically know, nope, I want to coach. I do well with, then absolutely, reach out to us and we'll talk about how to reach out to both of us. But, also don't be afraid to write that list, because even when you get that coach, the coach is not going to be, a team of one or two is okay, but mm-hmm. There's still, you're going to be wanting to build. So you still want to kind of get an idea.
Yeah. And that's, I'm on the same page. That's why I wrote the book that I did, Making Money in the Music Biz, basically to teach people how to do this, how to put it together. It's the step-by-step to show you how to do it. But right. I also teach it in my class. So with my students, I show them basically how to start from scratch, from zero, and right. And build their own music business, right. and also just to prepare for life,
right?
Because there is, even though you're building a music business, you're still trying to build your life after music, or even just retirement side, just thinking on long term. So that's right. I'm giving those concepts when I'm trying to teach my right. students, but that's a big part of it. But I think you were hitting a lot of the points. Actually, the other questions that I was going to ask you, but it's perfect though. It's right in the rhythm. So the people that you need on your team are different, like you said, for different people at different points of their career. Exactly. And so there's no real, one pill, one size fits all.
Right. It's not team. It's definitely not one size fits all. I think that particularly in the beginning, I think as you progress and you become a much more established artist, there does become more of this checklist that you better have on your team, right. Or you're not going to be able to keep up with the momentum that you have. And so I think, if you think of an artist as an artist, you're constantly building, and the building is in a lot of different directions. The building of the craft, the building of the awareness of who you are, and then also just, the building of your brand and all of that. But then there's going to be kind of a momentum that's going to start to go with, as you do get your music heard, as you are starting to do more shows, it's gonna become more clear. Unfortunately, it's gonna get uncomfortable because what happens is you'll usually have something crazy happen. You'll be like, oh my God, I don't want that to happen again. I need somebody to help me with boom. And then it's like, oh, I need this and then that. So a lot of times that's kind of those beginning stages of how you start recognizing, in fact, who you actually do need. Because everybody's a little bit different. But I really encourage new artists that team of one is going to be very important initially so that you can kind of understand your own strengths, your own areas of needing improvement or weaknesses or whatever, your own challenges. If you just straight out don't even try and just like, well, let me just go hire some people to start me going, you're not going to have a clue of who you are. And then those people are going to take over and
they'll
try to make you
exactly
tell you who you are, which becomes a much more uncomfortable place for you as an artist.
If you don't have a plan will be made for you.
Yes, yes.
There's I'm going to go through a list of people that could potentially be on your team in a minute, but I want to say that for me, I would probably say a VA, a virtual assistant, would be the first and best person to have. And the reason I would say that is because you're a musician, you're an artist,
right?
And you want to focus on that, and you want to send off either all the rudimentary day-to-day things that any business needs to get done, even research, that stuff, you can do it. And I'm sure you're very competent and can do it very well.
Right.
But what you need to be focused on is dealing with the musical aspects. And this was something this was a problem that I never really solved.
Yeah.
That's why I sort of led with that and said it'd be good for me to hear what you had to say on that side.
Yeah, and the virtual assistant part, we may disagree a little bit. Let it be known. I have a virtual assistant. I have a VA, and honestly, I would not have probably had a VA if it was not for Dr. William Smith on this call right now, because you're the one that kind of buzzed the word to me that made me get my eyes open to that, and I love her. She is fantabulastic. Like, I love everything about her. She does an awesome job. And at this point, I don't know how I would do Creating Crimson without her. So she's a critical piece. But she was a critical piece in my Creating Crimson coaching side. So for me and my music side, when I was doing she actually doesn't really do much with my music stuff. She does more with my business administrative on the coaching business side. And that was mainly because that was kind of foreign territory. Like the music part, because I did do a lot of it by myself initially, I had to learn so much on my own. So there was a lot. So that team looks different than my Creating Crimson team. And that's why I was kind of mentioning that before. I think I'm an organized person. I'm a planner. I'm a writer. Like, I know how to kind of write and communicate and do emails and so forth. So I didn't feel like I needed the virtual assistant so much as an artist in the very beginning. But now when I started Creating Crimson, it was a whole nother land of how I was going to have to run this business. I felt like my skills weren't getting me anywhere, or they were short reaching. My music skills were far reaching though. So
I'll say this, that I think in the music world, I think we sort of confuse or maybe even substitute a publicist for a VA, because a lot of the work that gets done on the music side is usually publicity related.
Right.
And so we sort of keep it in that vein, because even in social media, all those things. Now, let me say this, as an artist, for me, a lot of the stuff that I did is what they call back in the day. And we didn't have all of these sites where you could get a virtual assistant for, so all of these things that are available now, they just weren't, they were non-existent, when I was basically running and gunning.
And I think it can get really confusing because we have just so many resources now, and it's and because of the way technology works, our access is it's good, but it's making us more overwhelmed, and I think it's making it harder for us to discern because there's just so much. And so you're right. I did, while I wasn't as far maybe as back in the day as you, when I was starting my music stuff, is definitely a very different landscape now, on a lot of levels. And that was, just maybe, 7 years ago, I would say, is when I released my first project. So almost to the date, because June is my anniversary month of releasing my very first project. And it wasn't, so it's been, 7 years. That's that lucky 7. But I didn't start, one of the things I was going to say is, also in this kind of determining what level you're at kind of determines what team you need to be building. If you have started, let's say you have a fellow musician, maybe that's just been kind of working with you. You guys write, you record together, you kind of help each other out. You're in the studio. That may be your team at that point. Right. Just trying to get your music kind of going, and that's okay. And so I think that if it's working, let it be, and don't necessarily search for stuff when you're not, when it hasn't presented itself yet. Right. Let it present itself, because it will present. What you need will show itself up. And I think what's happening now is it's kind of like when I am not a coupon. I'm not the person in the newspaper, that goes and clips the coupons. And and I say this has a point to it in a minute. And so I'm not that person that does that, because I didn't need, just because that's 50 cents instead of $1, but I don't need that. I mean, if I know what I need, I write my list, right? I need, I don't know, paper towels. I need Kleenex. I need bananas. I need some apples. Okay. So that's my list. I wrote my list. Now what I can do is I can now go to the newspaper and say, okay, are there any sales on bananas? Are there any sales on paper towels? And so then I can, because if I go straight to the paper, all of a sudden I need M&Ms, I need some ice cream, because all this stuff is on sale because it's 4th of July weekend. Oh, I need some hot dogs, when my list didn't have any of those things. And so I think
they play off of what you want versus what you need.
Exactly. So you have to be careful with the internet and all this, because it's very easy to go out and say, oh, I need that. Oh, yeah, that sounds good. I need that. I need to get that person. I need to get that. You haven't even written your list. So I really, 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 encourage people, write down, where are you? What is it that you feel like you need? Because once you write your list and now, okay, this is where at least my mind thinks this is where I'm at and what I need. So now let me see, based on that list, who can I, or what can I do? Right. And what those things that I can't do, or I have no idea about how to do. Now I have at least the list, so that can help me kind of narrow down, okay, part of my list says I want to be on the radio. So now that's telling me I probably need to at least talk to somebody who's involved in radio, so that I get an idea. Maybe it's just a DJ. Maybe it's a friend of mine that's a DJ. Maybe it's a friend of mine that has had their stuff on radio before. It may not even be as critical as a radio promoter. That's a very formal, another level. So, so I always tell people, you got to get real basic, because our minds definitely our minds float. We're creative people. So as creative people, our minds are going to go way high, way into the stratosphere. And so we have to remember to bring it down and bring it real basic, so that we can kind of, look at the actual needs and then match our needs, with what it is that we feel like we, to find that person. Yeah. Yeah.
And I would say, in general, this is a very basic list of some people that you would need on your team. Maybe not at the beginning, but at some point in your career. Yes. Definitely an attorney.
Yeah, I was just going to go there. That I actually was going to say that was actually my first person that I really hired. But yes, go.
Yeah, definitely an attorney. A publicist, like you said, and if you're not good at graphic design, you need to get a graphic designer, because branding is pretty much everything, in terms of getting that visual in front of people. And then you would need I would say some type of booking person or promoter.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's the basics.
Yeah, my list looks very similar. I would only thing I would take off is the booking person. You know how I am, though, Will. You know I'm the indie.
Well, that's what you. Yeah, that's what you do. you rock your own stuff.
But yeah, no, everybody else. The only person I also would add, and when you said booking, I thought you were going to say bookkeeper, accountant, I think you need somebody with a money sense, whether it be an accountant or. Either the accountant that you already work, if you have an accountant that you work with for your taxes already, then talk to that person. They don't need to be, because your accountant and your lawyer are people that are critical on your team, but don't really have to be on your team every day. They're not people,
right?
They're the people that, though, when you get into certain very serious business situations, you're going to need them, because to start understanding contracts or to start understanding what, tax situations mean based on what, incomes and all of that stuff, that's going to be out of your scope unless you're coming from that background into music. And so I do think, I know for me, those were the other two things. Once I had started singing and I started releasing music and I started doing shows and I started getting actual income, then I was like, I need to, this is now money. So I need to get an account. I need to talk to my accountant. We have a family accountant. So that's who I just went to and said, listen, I think I might need to think about this a little differently. And he kind of counseled me through that. And then when I very early, though, I think probably the person that right after my producer, the next person that I worked with the longest was my lawyer. And it's funny, we have a joke. I've had him since the moment that I decided to, I think, first release music. And I realized, I'm seeing all these different just agreements. If you agree to this, the terms of this, you're, signing off when you're trying to get your stuff published and all this.
Right.
I was like, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing at all. And the first time I'm getting booked for a show, it's like, oh my God, they're giving me a contract. And maybe the contract is only even a page, but I immediately, and the way I found my lawyer, because then again, it's like, do I just go Google lawyer? I wouldn't. What I would do is talk to other artists and see if they have, get referrals for your attorney, definitely. And so my vocal coach, I had taught, and you want to talk to a couple of attorneys if you can. If you could get at least 2 or 3 would be awesome. So that way you can kind of compare and contrast their fees and what they do and what their specialties are and their experience in doing music and entertainment types of law. And so my vocal coach, I asked her about, because she had been doing singing forever. And then what happened was, at that time, my husband and I were working on some family estate planning stuff, wills and that kind of stuff. And so the attorney who handled that, she did such a good job with us, and I liked her so much. I was like, do you do any this is all you do, right? You just do estate. And she's like, yeah, no, I don't do entertainment, but I know somebody who does, if you'd like me to. And obviously a lawyer referring another lawyer, was was going to be a strong recommendation. And that's who I actually went with. And he is awesome. I love my lawyer so much. He's really helped me. And we have such a joke because we've never met in person. All of our stuff has been phone and email. Wow. And I finally just saw a picture of him because of Facebook. Because I didn't even think to look him up on Facebook. And then I saw, just recently, a couple months ago, he started following my fan page, because he said, I think I probably should see what is it that you're doing?
maybe I should follow you.
Well, he said, I just want to see what your brand, he's like, I know you're nitty gritty, but I'm just kind of curious, what are you looking like out here on social media? So I finally just got to see a picture of him. But he's so awesome. And so he is actually who, when we're talking about producing my own events and stuff, I have such a good attorney. So I'll tell him, look, this is the idea I'm coming up with, if it's a bigger production other than just singing.
Right.
When I'm doing workshops or whatever, if it's multi-artists in a gig. And he will write up for me a draft contract, or he'll give me the language to use. Here, write this, or here, say these. These are the things you need to include when you talk to the person. So he's just been really wonderful, and, he's not crazy expensive. And because I don't need him every day, it's not this huge cost to me. So attorney, and my bookkeeping person is really good too. So
yeah, I got burned with a tax person a long time ago, which led me to be audited. So I do my own taxes, and
I get it.
It's hard.
I get
it's
it.
It's hard to relinquish that trust again, but I'm gonna eventually. I have to do it eventually because my stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say
really
there's
complex.
a point. Yeah, I was gonna say the more businesses you start owning, the more you start really having different ventures that are bringing in different levels of revenue and different spaces. I highly recommend that. Obviously, as a more beginner, you probably are okay on your own. I still would say, even if you don't hire the accountant, at least just do a consultation with an accountant so that the accountant can tell you these are the things, since you're going to be starting this new music career or business. Pay attention to that. The other thing that's a little bit different than an accountant, but is in the accounting realm, is someone who just manages your bookkeeping. And I just want to say this really quick. This is another critical part, at least, of my team. And when you do start bringing in money, so you're doing, and don't think of yourself, a lot of people poo-poo their little, their gigs. And it's like, no, but you just had 6 gigs. Like, what happened with that money? How did you record that? What did you do with that? So what I highly recommend is that you get somebody who has, now this is tricky when you talk about trust, because now we need somebody who is literally looking at your money, okay, and managing kind of the ins and outs. I didn't do that for years, and my accountant was getting very, very upset at me every tax year because I would come to him with just like, here's some receipts, maybe. I don't know. And I think this is what I spent. I don't know. And he's like, well, just use QuickBooks. And I'm like, my brain just can't. I was so frustrated because he was frustrated and I was frustrated. And then in the divine way, so I'm not going to get into it, but my bookkeeper came into my life in a very divine way. And she has set me straight, like really has set me straight. She's only about numbers. Perfect. I can give her the most creative idea in the world. And she's like, and what dollars do we have? You have $1 to do all of that? So that's another thing I think is if and I'm not good with that. I'm fine with managing like my household, but when it got to business, I just said, I can't. And so, but this is somebody that has to be very trustworthy because technically they have access to all your accounts. So,
and I would say just start using something like Mint.com.
Yep.
I mean, it's the simplest thing. You don't even have to get QuickBooks. Yep. For me, at the end of every tax season, you can put a category to every transaction, and I just do the search for that category for that year.
Yeah.
And tally up the totals. I mean, it's just, I'm a TurboTax, Mint.com, and it's, plug and play for me. But my stuff does get complex because I have stocks that I do and real estate and all these other things. So you have to be aware and you got to be smarter about certain things because you actually could be leaving a whole lot of money on the table.
Oh my God.
Or paying the government money that you shouldn't be paying them. And
this is why I say with the accountant part. I'm sorry. I was just going to say that's what makes the accountant part so huge because they find, I mean, my accountant finds things that I'm like, what? Huh? So. Yeah. Wow, that's a lot. I feel like we might overwhelm our listener. Because it is because the team. You hear so much about teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work, and it does. I mean, it's critical.
It does.
It's critical, but it's a timing issue too. So I will just say if you're at the very beginning of trying to do this, let's do it baby steps. Start out with just writing the list. Like I said, the list of what it is you feel like you're trying to do and what you need. And then, the list of people that you already know that may be available and just start there. I do also, while we're here and, definitely, you can email me at info@creatingcrimson.com. We can set up a coaching session that's just about this, just about teamwork. So, if you need that help. So that's for our beginners. And if you're not a beginner and maybe you do have an assistant or you have somebody helping, but you feel like your team is plateauing or you're not really getting anywhere, that's another conversation of team building. And, again, that's the whole point of why I coach, is to figure out what your situation is. And then I can start to plug in for you, help you plug in, given what you're telling me. This is where we're probably looking like now. Right. You don't want to just be like, oh, okay, well, I need, and I think that what Will just provided is a nice bullet list, like a nice outline of kind of that group. But you may need less than that that's on that list. You may need a little bit more than what he just provided. That's just a kind of a basic, basic space. So this is where the mentoring is important. Yeah.
Yeah. And on future podcasts, we can go into depth, and we may even continue this next podcast just to cover some other concepts. Yeah. But, if you have specific questions, definitely email us and we'll respond to those questions on there.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think, Will has mentioned in a few podcasts how he has this checklist, right? You have this business checklist of things to do, correct? For your business?
Yes, that's in the book. Right? And it's in the, it's in, I have, if you buy the book from Create Space, then you will get the book with the bonuses. And it has everything in it. It has a checklist. It has, I can't even remember what it's on. It has like a whole bunch of other things, how to run a studio. There's a whole lot of detail in there that's very useful. And things that I was giving away free for some people that were coming to the site. So I just put it all in the back end of the book. So if you just buy the book from Create Space directly, then you'll get all that stuff.
And can you tell them the title of the book again, just in case?
Making Money in the Music Business.
There you go. It's the name of our podcast.
That's it.
You can't forget it. Making Money in the Music Business. Go to Create Space and search that. And I think that's
the link is on my website, so it's
as well as the website.
Yeah,
right. And the website is Making Money in the Music Biz.com.
BIZ.
Yeah.
.com.
Right. So use those things, and use this podcast, replay it. This is why we're doing this, to help you, and hopefully it's good listening. And I know you've got to have some questions or new ideas. So no question is not a good question. So make sure you let us know. And I even do free consultations for 30 minutes. So it may be that we just focus on, one of the topics that we've talked about in the podcast in that consultation, or, whatever. So take advantage of, these resources. And again, for the free consultation, again, if you just email info@creatingcrimson.com, or if you go to creatingcrimson.com, you can also email from there and set this up so you can get the information. Yeah.
We like that free 99.
Yeah, it's funny. I have been, and this is just my little last testimony before we wrap up. We're always evolving as artists. I think it's important that I don't want any of my clients or any other fellow artists to ever think that I feel like I've arrived. Like, this is it.
Exactly.
I'm done. I don't got no more to, that I too, I'm kind of in another season myself where I'm actually slowing a lot of stuff down to get still, and I'm rewriting my lists. And because the other thing that happens is your team will also change as you're growing.
Yes,
and as you're moving, and you have to start understanding what parts of your team you need to start letting go, what parts of your teams you need to start growing more in, what parts of your teams do you not let go, cut off, but that you just say, you know what, we're a little bit on a break. We'll get back to that. I'll let you know, when I'm back in that space again. And so I'm in that season myself. So I myself am actually re-looking kind of at I mean, my team is pretty strong, so it's never, I don't have anybody that I'm cutting off or this, and I'm not trying to redo my team. But I realize I'm trying to take some things kind of in some other spaces. So I'm a little bit on pause, and I'm using the summer. I haven't even told Will this yet, but I'm going to use my summer really to kind of focus on that and kind of get still about, what is it that I'm doing? So don't be afraid to do that for yourself. You got the time. Don't worry about the time. Don't hurry it through. Even though we were just saying release your song in June, I think on one of our podcasts, but don't hurry it through. It's June now. You can do it next June, and just slow it down, get still. And I can totally relate, right now, because I'm having to tell everything I'm telling you. I'm telling myself right now. So
yeah, and as you grow, some people may be able to handle the growth and the expansion in your business. Some people might not, and that's okay. All that's fine. And it's just a matter of you knowing where you are and making the best decisions for yourself.
Absolutely.
And it's the business. It's the business side. Now you've made friends. Of course, you're going to make friends with your team, but and that should be a friendly conversation. Just and everybody will know. Will sort of get the feeling, will know that this is okay, this is what's happening. So
right. And like you just said, it is a business, and while it's a cordial business, you want to be able to have as much of a transparent business, but it is a business, and so we have to respect. I just kind of, and this is just as an announcement, we are going to be postponing the Art Voices Matter series. I had to make a big decision with that. And so that's kind of, and so if you've been following us, I've been talking about Art Voices Matter. That's actually, a little bit on pause. And I know Will is sitting, what? This is the exclusive, because I haven't told him either, but it's important that I say this because I think, I'm a real transparent, authentic person, because I think that's how we really learn, our stories are each other's. That's the testimonies. Those are the real sermons. Those are the real sermons. Okay, guys, is hearing people's stories and how people work through and fall out and come above. And, that's how we get inspired and learn and do. And so I decided I was, I have a dynamic, wonderful team doing Art Voices Matter. And I did put a pause button on it and had to let the team kind of know that, just so that it can be better, so that I can feel more comfortable with how I want it to be. And, that was a hard decision, but it was an important decision, and I feel much better about the decision. And while, yes, I want all the people to still be involved, but I want you to be involved in a special way. So I had to kind of look at it a little bit. Teams, my team, I've built the relationship with them where they trusted me on this, and I trust them. So I let them give me feedback, on their thoughts about how to kind of proceed. And, we're still working together, but we're just, right now I'm kind of sitting and trying to get a little bit more still so we can make it even more impactful. So it's an evolving process, teams.
Yes, it is.
When you have a solid team, they get it. And you want to build that. Yeah. You want to be able to build that. But it takes time. I'm 7 years out before I got this team. So it took a long time to get this team. And, it hasn't felt like 7 years. It's actually felt really quick when I think about it. But give yourself some grace in building your team. That's another big part that I tell people. I get a lot of clients who run to me. I need a team. Everybody's telling me I need a team. And I'm like, you know what? You do, but you don't have to need it at 2:00 today. Like, it's okay. Right. We're going to figure it out. So
and it's beautiful though. But everything is going to work out in its own way, and you just have to keep up with the flow, and everything will be presented to you. The people that you need, all that stuff will come to you, and in the right time, in the right way. So, but great, another amazing podcast. Another amazing podcast. Wow,
those are my applause. Wow.
Yeah. I told you I was going to get one. I still got to put it in. I think I'll do that maybe for this one.
We got to figure it out. Well, thank you. And yeah, definitely, hit us up. Like we said, ask your questions. If you have a topic, if you have a burning question, if this made you think of something that you would like us to talk about in the future, again, email info@creatingcrimson.com. And subscribe to both of our websites as well, creatingcrimson.com and makingmoneyinthemusicbiz.com.
And you can email me direct at drwsmith@makingmoneyinthemusicbiz.com.
Right. And make sure when you go to our sites and stuff, subscribe, because if you subscribe, you're going to automatically get all of this. It's going to be waiting for you. Yep. Right. And I have weekly tips and weekly event announcements. If you have a show that you want to, announce beyond your social media or your contacts, you can, we will announce it on our Creating Crimson. This is a free deal. Do you understand? This is free marketing. So this won't last very long. So I would take upon it right now. All you have to do is email us. Email us info@creatingcrimson.com and email us what your event is and a link where people can, either buy tickets or learn more about it. And we'll put it up. We'll put it on our event announcement as long as it's, music related. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Y'all hear that? Yeah, take advantage. Y'all hear that?
Take advantage. So
beautiful. All right, Kenya.
All right, well, thanks, guys. We'll see you next time. Take care.
All righty.